When you find yourself on the side of majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Mr. Mark Twain. We have a lot of people right now that I'm listening to, who are experiencing a lot of negativity and a lot of frustrations with life. And I think because of our systems and everything, where are these things coming from? What's going on? I think we like to pin it on other people, things, and I think we need to look inward to ourselves. We need to improve something definitely to have quality of life, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babishoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. If you're wondering what we do here, the show is dedicated to improving quality of life for people and planet through lifestyle design, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving from surviving to thriving and living life raw. All right, guys. Before we get, let's look at a few of our sponsors: Snoopy Band-Aids, Vodka Tonics, Duct Tape, and the School of Hard Knocks that like to just keep coming in. And it sounds like to me, through social media and everything, that there's a lot of people experiencing some shit right now. And, we're hovering over they're saying it could be a possible recession that can hit here. And I think things are going to get even worse. But I want to talk about where are these things, in my opinion, and these are only one man's opinions, of what's going on here and how we can fix this. So stick with me. I promise I'm going to try to make this as pleasurable as possible, but I think I want to identify this problem first here. I say a lot on my show about how important money is, and in fact, money is pretty much everything. And when you look at it, nowadays it is money, and what I mean by this is look what happened in the past. The definition of a landlord was a keeper of grains, from Mr. Hemingway, from the permaculturalist. So it was basically in the day was currency of some sort. It wasn't necessarily money. Back in the old days, it was grain or it was land. And there was these parcels that people can read, that landowners would look at, and they can easily measure and say, this is how much grain we're going to get. And they kept everybody working. And they owned the land, and it would be an exchange of basically, like I see, is the French word, an oubliette, a prison of walls of air. These people are stuck there. They've got to work. They've got to do something. And it's the same position that we're in today with the monetary system. We have to keep fighting to make money for pure, utter personal freedom in the mind, in the soul, I believe. This goes off on many, many directions. Is that another thing I say a lot on the show is that you're not able to finish a thought. And what do I mean by that? Is that you're so concerned about what bills you have to pay or things that you own that end up owning you. There's just always these problems here. And if we simplified life and we applied things such as minimalism and simple living and permaculture and farming, we would have much more of a rewarding life, in my opinion, because we don't have all these distractions. What exactly is bothering us? Why are people so unhappy most of the time? We look at the macro. You got to open this up and look at the macro. So, for instance, some stories I'm hearing is some people very frustrated with their children and having to work and a lot of money that's going out for these certain things. And it's not necessarily, I think, having children is beautiful. I mean, we can all have a rotten egg. I've met some kids who had perfect families, and they were just a little dick. You look like, that's just a dick. You can't help that, you got the ugly duckling or the fucked up duckling. But I don't think it's necessarily your relationship that you're in, your partner, or your friends, or things like that. I think it's the stuff that's eating you. It's the irritableness. And that's where I keep looking at it. I believe that this is 100%, well, not 100%, but the majority of it is coming from this money. And let's take a look at that. This monetary system, unlike agriculture, or better yet, like permaculture and natural farming and things of that nature, is everything keeps multiplying. I've said this before on, I think it was Tax-Free Freedom, how when you plant one tomato, you get like 50 seeds, maybe even more off that one tomato. And each tomato will keep producing in abundance. And it doesn't take money or anything. It just takes a little water and some fertilizer and things that aren't taxable and don't really cost money. So this is more of a rewarding situation in contrast to the monetary system, where the growing and having animals and things is like a closed loop circle. It's a symbiotic relationship. The chicken, if you looked at permaculture as a whole, you'd have this circle and you'd have a chicken that gives you eggs and babies. And then you look at the symbiotic relationship. What does it do? It poops. That poop gets in turn put into a compost. Then you get worms that come in here. We just went from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. All of the points of benefits that things give you. And we're just going to skip it on. So you got the worms, and that's the chickens feeding the mycorrhiza and the microorganisms in the soil, which in turn you take that soil and then you put it into a pot. Now we're at 9 o'clock, on the Richter scale, on the clock scale of goodness, of yumminess. You put that in a pot and you take those seeds and you grow your food, right? And then the excess that you have, like your tomato bushes, the greens and everything, or the cuttings from your lettuce, the roots, you throw those in at 12 o'clock into a compost, and that in turn goes to the chickens that they eat that. And you see how everything just keeps going in a system of love, respect, and ingenuity, and of nature. Whereas the monetary system, once you get that money in your hand, it just goes out and it never comes back. Then yes, there's a few things like you can invest in your home, or get equity and things like that, buy some tools, but all of those things are designed to fall apart. All these things will be taking needs from you. And I think that spiritually and mindfulness, that's the reason we know this. And this is the reason we're so unhappy. We're not fulfilled. Why is it that we go out and spend $200-300 on food, in a movie or show or all this entertainment, and you still come home not feeling satisfied? Unless it's sushi, and I'm up for adoption, and I do have an address on here if somebody wants to send me some tickets to go to Firefish in Temecula, California. If you're ever in California, by the way, check it out. Firefish, or Fish Fire, I think it is. Yeah, Fish Fire in Temecula. Oh my God, guys, I've been everywhere. Like, I am a sushi fanatic, and that place is fucking the bomb. Anyways, I digress. Where were we? We've got to get back in tune. We got to get back in touch with not just nature and our children, but ourselves. And I think it's become such a problem that we're actually blind, was the thought I had this morning while I was walking, getting my cardio with fucking poison oak all over my balls and my legs. Definitely not. I pushed through it though. We're blind that we can't even see each other because of our problems, our brain stuff that's going on. So we know what the problem is then. Fuck it, okay? That's one thing you're going to find out about the show is I don't want to sit here and talk about the problems. We got to find the solutions. So there's a way of freedom is to persevere, is to look at things in a different way. Right now I have, for an example for you, is a lot of people all over the world are moving out of farmlands and jungles and stuff by droves and going into cities. For those of us who want to live a happy, free, a life of freedom and sustainability, you almost have to look at things like all the examples I give in this show of turning things upside down to look at them at different angles, stacking functions. So if we think about this, that all of these people are moving out of these farm areas, what if you did the reverse? Just like the opening statement here in this podcast was, when you find yourself on the side of majority, it's time to stop and reflect. What if you did the reverse and went backwards? What if you went to the land? I mean, there's land out there. I think eventually what I'm thinking is going to happen is that land's going to go cheap. A lot of people you see it's been family owned, and maybe the parents passed away. Now the young kids inherited. Now they got to pay property taxes on top of the taxes that they're having to pay for living in the city. They're paying taxes on 2 different lots, and they're like, we just got to get rid of it. And I don't personally want to live in that way. So I think it opens up many opportunities for communities, for individuals to even buy a parcel of land out there and do your thing. I think as well too is we need to look at, I think it was Graham Hancock or Michael Tellinger, I can't remember which one, but it's in the Time. They suggest, and I have an argument against this too, but let's give this what one of these guys was suggesting is, why do you think there was these great monuments and pillars and carved statues out of pure marble and the pyramids and things? Was one of the ideas that they're suggesting is that these people had such an abundance, which is kind of proof, because if you look under the desert, there was an entire forest, like a jungle there. It wasn't always desert. Something tilted, something went wrong. These civilizations thrived for thousands of years, supposedly, of what history tells us. I don't believe anything I hear or see, but this was the time that I think one of these guys was insinuating that instead of focusing on all the problems or having to survive and cut grain for the grain keeper, the landlord and everything, there was time for people who had talents to focus on building beautiful things. And my argument against that is that maybe possibly they enslaved thousands, if not millions of people and made them do shit for them, the fucking Rothschilds or whatever you want to call them, the 1% was doing some crazy shit back in the day. It is a possibility. But I want to, in order to get to a happy place and to work on yourself first. I think it's Bob Marley. Could you love and could you be loved? I mean, you think that's a simple statement, but I want you to put that shirt on for a day or just for a few minutes and really think about that. Could you love people without even knowing yourself, without loving yourself? How would you know what the experience is to give to other people, the feeling? And could you allow people to love you? Very powerful words. But I think the key to get to this area is that we need to focus on time. And I've done a lot of podcasts on that, but that was the topic this morning of thoughts was, how does one get to an area where they can calm the shitstorm down? And it's creating through simple living, through minimalism, through permaculture, and putting things in your life that have meaning. Just grow. I've got an awesome, the next podcast I think I'm going to do is perseverance, you guys. And I've invented this new zero waste, biodegradable gardening. But the years it took me to get to this is, I think this is like a decade. And I finally arrived at something that I fully believe in and something that's just, it's blowing my fucking mind. But it took that time. And you know where I got that time was by designing my life. And I think that I just want to drive that home as hard as possible, guys. Only you know what's going on in your life, but you need to figure out a way to calm the storm down. And to me, the view I see from the macro, when I look at all these people getting very angry, it's not 100% because of their kids. It's not 100% about their relationship or even the systems that I like to talk shit about, or the government or the dentist. You know, mom, let's set mom aside for a second. We got a whole new set of issues. It's starting with yourself, man, of what you're seeing, the lenses that you're looking through, man. Your windshield. If your windshield's dirty, you got to clean it, but you got to have that time. And the way to do that is through lifestyle design. We don't have to turn, as the earlier podcast was in the week, we don't have to use this everything as a religion. We don't have to jump into and just be like, this is a club that we all belong to. I mean, if you're not in it, then you don't belong. You don't do everything like we say. Pick all the good things, and I hope that's what you're going to get out of my show, because that's exactly what I'm doing. Grab all the best information and the highlights of everything, mold that in, simplify your life, use that time to get out of wherever you're in, and use these tools. My thought too is shame on all of us as individuals. Having social media and YouTube and Reddit, and I'm not really into Reddit, but I hear it's pretty good. I should check it out. But having all these options and people like me giving stuff away for free that you can mold and take this information instead of gassing each other up on why the fuck we should not do anything and why the world sucks. Let's look at all the positive shit. Pull that stuff together and create the life that we fucking want. You guys, we have it all here right now. If you're unhappy, we don't have to fucking live this way. We have the fucking resources and the tools. And yes, we're confined to rules and regulations, but in those rules and regulations are ways to fucking beat it. So there's loopholes, okay? And there is freedom out there. We just have to have the mindset to go after it. How hungry are you? And I think one of my favorite quotes I put on my Instagram is, what's in your soul's wallet? What's at the end of your life? What is all this worth it? And I beg of you, if you think that I'm wrong and you disagree, look at how many people are actually successful and how in happiness, not just monetary, but happiness. That's the question. And health. Can they see you? Can they see you? Do they have the time? Or are they beaten up by this fucking bullshit system that we're all following along and going after that's not even working for everybody? Yes, there's a couple out there, but god damn, this shit is fucking soul wrenching. This is dirt living, guys. And so yeah, we know what the problems are. We want the solutions. I hope I've inspired you guys, because it starts with you, right? It doesn't matter what the fuck I say. It doesn't matter what your husband, your wife, your kids, you got to start with you. You got to love you. You got to believe in you, because I believe in you. And I think that each and every individual one of you guys individually has the power in you. You just have to see the light, and you have to believe in yourself and make that move towards bettering your life, bettering your planet, and bettering your soul. Put something in your soul's wallet. And with that, thanks for being here. If you like this sort of thing, check us out on Facebook. There's a private group there where I've made it private so that we can kick any boo-hoos out and some buttheads that want to cause trouble. But I let everybody in right out. I preview right out at the gate. So just go ahead and join there. There's stuff that you're not going to find here on the podcast or on these shows. There's also the Instagram where I post every single day to kind of show what an alternative lifestyle design is, and also to just kind of give some comedy or some photos or just some enlightened sayings. And there's basically things you're not going to find anywhere else. There, as on all the platforms. Of course, there's YouTube, there's Spotify and Apple iTunes for the podcasts. And as I always say, guys, don't lose your fucking muchness. Carry on the fire. Believe in yourself. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it.